Today we're talking about the Necron robot centipedes, the canoptek tomb stalker, and the canoptek tomb sentinel, and that's coming right up. Welcome back, and it's great to have you here. So, today we're talking about the canoptek tomb stalker and the tomb sentinel. So, both these Forge World models, they look freaking awesome on the tabletop, but is that enough to justify taking them? Well, in my opinion, yes. But for those of you who are not quite convinced, here are some of the reasons why you should take them. But before we get into that, if this is your first time here, here's what's up. If you want to improve your wargaming, make your tabletop battles more epic, and give your wargaming budget more power, then make sure that you smash the subscribe button and ding the bell, that way you won't miss anything. Okay, both the canoptek tomb stalker and the tomb sentinel both have a very similar profile, as you can see right here. Now, there is one crucial difference between them. The tomb sentinel has 2 less attacks at 4 as opposed to the tomb stalker's 6. However, it makes up for this with an exile cannon, which is a pretty cool weapon, even if it is rather short range. Although, that being said, given that both of these models have a form of deep strike through their tunneling rule, it means that the range is not a huge issue because you're going to want these things right up in your opponent's face anyway. Now, in addition to both these models being able to deep strike, they both have a 10-inch move, which is really quick for Necrons. And at toughness 7 and 9 wounds, they're going to last a fair bit, and I'm actually glad that they're on 9 wounds and not 10, because that means we don't have to worry about them slowing down or losing attacks or any of that nonsense. Now, both of these guys can take gloom prisms as well, so if you're after something to block psykers that has a bit more kick than a tomb spider, these things are fantastic choices, as they do have quite a bit more kick to them. So, the primary reason you're going to take one of these is so that you can attack quickly and very early on. I personally like to use them to target long-range, hard-hitting weapons. And if you're taking a lot of stuff with quantum shielding, targeting things like assault cannons and plasma cannons, plasma guns, those sorts of things, the high output, low damage weapons, these things are ideal for targeting those things, so that your ghost arcs and your stuff with quantum shielding is able to get up the battlefield into range without taking too much damage. Which ultimately is what both of these models boil down to. They are a moderately priced distraction for the first couple of turns while you get the rest of your army into position, and they do that job quite well just because they can get up in your opponent's face so quickly. Now, the big difference between the two is that, like I mentioned, the 2 attacks different, but the Tomb Sentinel has an exile cannon, which, like I said, is an awesome weapon, rather lethal as well, whereas the Tomb Stalker has 2 Gauss slicers, which are, they're kind of meh. Although, they're not too bad against small units of Space Marines. So, how do you best use these guys? Well, basically, they're likely to die first or second turn. And the reason for that is that you're going to want these guys up rather close regardless of which one you take, because they're good in close combat and their weapons are rather short range. So you're going to be putting them up close to your enemy. And given that you want to get them up close by whatever means you can, this is the reason why I think the Tomb Stalker edges out the Tomb Sentinel by just a little bit. Those 2 extra attacks are fairly significant given that this model is going to spend more time in close combat than out of close combat. Which is perfectly okay, because at strength 6 in close combat, with 6 attacks for the Tomb Stalker, whereas 4 for the Tomb Sentinel, these things are great for taking down small squads of Space Marines, and at AP-2, you're reducing their save to a 5+. The other reason that I prefer the Tomb Stalker over the Tomb Sentinel is that the Exile Cannon is a heavy weapon, which means given that you're likely to move before firing it, you're hitting on a 4 rather than a 3. Which, I don't know about you, but I'd rather be hitting on a 3, especially given that from the way I use it, it's unlikely you're going to be using it against vehicles. That's the job of your heavy destroyers and your Triarch Stalkers. So, quick recap. basically, both of these models are ideal for first and second turn distractions, where you need to draw some of your opponent's heavier weapons away from the rest of your army while it moves into position. Using these models in a hammer and anvil formation is extremely effective, because they are able to get up behind your opponent very, very quickly. Now, personally, I prefer the Tomb Stalker over the Tomb Sentinel just because of those 2 extra attacks and the fact that I didn't use the Exile Cannon that much. I didn't get many opportunities to fire it at targets that it's really suited to go up against. The Gauss Slicers did a much better job in my testing, but that was mainly because I was using it to take down things like Devastator squads. If you're planning to use it to take down heavy things, then taking the Sentinel could be a good idea in that scenario. So, what are your thoughts on the canoptek Tomb Stalker and the canoptek Tomb Sentinel? Do you like them? Do you prefer one over the other? Do you agree with me or disagree with me? Leave it in the comment section below. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up so we know that you like it, so we can keep making stuff that you like. And as always, if you want to improve your wargaming, make your tabletop battles more epic, and give your wargaming budget more power, then be sure to smash the crosshair and ding the bell. You'll subscribe and I'll be able to share with you more battle reports, terrain tutorials, and strategies to make your wargaming experience more epic. And I'll see you next time.